Secrets. We all have them, or most of us have them. Whether it's something minor, like a cookie you stole as a kid, or something major, like murder or something crazy like that. Though I'd hope no one in my audience has ever done anything like that and is keeping it a secret. But most people generally have secrets, big or small, and most of the time that's fine. There is an issue with keeping a secret. You know, it's, you know, if it doesn't hurt anyone, who cares, right? Most people have secrets, but how much do you value those secrets? How much are you willing to hold on to your secrets? Those things that you just rather people not know of or be able to know of. Well, if Vice is your game and you live in the state of Utah, you can no longer access the hub. And we all know what I mean by the hub, but you are no longer allowed to get on there because State Bill 287 was passed unanimously recently, and it requires anyone who wants to access adult content show that they're 18 years of age to do so. They can use a government record or third-party verification source. This is coming straight from the article down below. And they have to provide this verification every time they are logged on. Well, as I can imagine, most of you who want to view this sort of content are not too keen on giving up your state ID. It's supposed to be confidential, or at least in theory, it should be confidential. But let's be honest. If they're gonna take your ID, there might exist somewhere some record of that, even if it's a simple log. With this particular bill, it's similar to a bill that they passed in Louisiana, which also did the same thing. You had to provide a Louisiana state ID to get onto the hub, which is just, it's crazy to me. I know that minors accessing this kind of content is an issue. I mean, a lot of people my age, it's something we've all done when we're younger. It happens. It's one of the downfalls of the internet is such free access is you run onto stuff like this. Whether it's adult content or stuff like Live Leak, where you just see some of the most horrific realities of life. But I don't like the whole ID thing. I don't think that this is particularly the way of doing things. Kind of getting back on hand. So the Louisiana bill, why that's different than the Utah bill is the Louisiana bill, they already had the article quotes it as a digitized government identification services. So basically this is a way to check your ID or check your record and make sure it's like you are of 18 and it's valid. And Louisiana has a service, some sort of, I assume it was designed by the government or maybe a third party, but they have the service in place. So for Louisiana users, back at the start of the year when this happened, you go to the site and it's a plug and play, you drop your information in. With Utah, they don't have such a service, but they're putting out this requirement. So they're basically like, you guys, the sites, you guys have to comply with this verification, but there is nothing in place. In my opinion, it kind of looks like the hub disagrees with this legislation, but I also totally get it from the perspective of, they don't even have Utah doesn't even have a service that they can just plug and play. And so it's different than Louisiana. They had a service, they could plug it in. They're like, you got to comply with this, but it's on you to figure it out. So I can understand from a business perspective, it's just like, no, why would we do that? If they already disagree with it. So yeah, I don't know what this is for like other sites, but I assume that it's probably similar in terms of outcomes. Now, the reason that is noted for this is one of the senators, Todd Weiler, basically said that his reasoning for it was, you should be able to have to prove you're an adult to view adult content because it's illegal for children to do so and illegal for adults to show children, which is a valid point. I'm not even to say that that's not a valid point. Like I said, a lot of people my age, that is an issue where a lot of our generation has gone on viewed this kind of things. However, it's not a particularly new problem. The internet has made it easier, but back in the day, there were those adult content channels. There was stuff like Playboy magazine. So I'm not saying that, oh, it's been happening for a long time, it's okay. No, it's messed quite a few people up, myself included. But this isn't a new issue. And this is why I kind of disagree with the whole thing, is because I don't think that people under the age of 18 should be going on these sites and looking at this content. Yes, I don't think they should be. However, I disagree with the fact of you need to give government ID to prove that you're 18. And it really rubs me wrong is because that could be used to compile some sort of record, or not could be used, but some sort of record could exist of the logins of the information. It gives another link in the chain. It gives another weak point where, you got this collection of information. If it's in a third party service, if the service gets hacked, the government service gets hacked, then you've got all the information of people that have gone on these adult sites. But more importantly, in my opinion, the biggest issue here is the authoritarianism. The fact that there could be a log or some sort of record to come out of this, it's like people who go on these sites generally do so in private. They don't do it. They don't do it unless you get some really, really sick individuals. Most people do it in the privacy of their own home, usually in the privacy of their own room. And they are not necessarily too keen on sharing all sorts of weird stuff that they're into. So, having to provide your ID so you can go watch GIMP stuff? No. No one wants to do that. The chance that there might be verification, like I said, I don't think that children should be on these sites at all. And for that, I understand. But the age verification, this is a huge step in my opinion. The article even talks about a lawsuit which is being brought against the state, citing it supports a Supreme court case ruling that if there's less intrusive methods, they should go for it. One of the things is like device filters, things like that, stuff that parents put on their child's phone, or blocking, through like the router or through apps, or, just being able to block it at the home, block it on your kid's device. And I get to the opponents who would say, oh, well, kids can go around. And I'm like, yeah, kids can go around. A lot of times kids will figure out these filters and get around it. There's no perfect solution to this. Even with the age verification thing, you think a kid's too good to swipe his mom or dad's ID and put it in? Now, wouldn't that be a terrible thing if your child swiped your ID and then looks up some heinous or embarrassing material on your phone and now there's some sort of record of it? Yeah. Like I said, there's no perfect solution to this, but this, in my opinion, is a huge overstep. people should be allowed to access this content without some sort of state issue record being attached to their visit. Another thing, kind of along these lines, is something that's been brought to my attention. Is I was recently made aware that in Roblox, you need ID to join their voice chat, which is interesting because to use their voice chat, you have to be 13 plus, right? But you need a photo ID, not any photo ID, a state photo ID. A state photo ID to use voice chat in what is still known to this day as a child's game. Not to mention that how are the 13 to 15-year-olds going to get state ID, right? Like I checked, you can't use a school ID, which most kids have and would prove how old they are or give at least a good estimate of how old they are. No, you need a state ID, which is it's ridiculous because on the one hand, it's like most kids aren't going to have access to that. And if they do have like a passport or something, you think their parents are going to let them do it? Be like, hey, mom, hey, dad, can we provide this state record to a video game so I can use voice chat? Like, those are the types of things you hear about, like, kids say, and you're like, oh, yeah, they're going to scam you, they're going to hack you. It's like the whole meme about giving away your password and free Robux, and then their account just gets stolen, right? Like, that's what it sounds like. And as stupid as it is, because again, how are children going to provide this ID? An ID for voice chat? Really? Like, I don't like that because I grew up in an era, and this is my personal opinion, I grew up in an era of trash talk on video games. Call of Duty, I don't need to say anything more. You already know the type of behavior that went on in Modern Warfare lobbies, Black Ops lobbies, back in the early 2010s. Even now, you go on the game now, you still get called the gamer word, which is insane. Maybe 2023, but does not mean that we have evolved that much. And for trash talk on a video game, like, I already see the stuff they put in, like the text messages. I played a couple times with family. I've seen the stuff they put in text messages. And you want a government ID linked to that nonsense? Oh, no, no, no. I would never. I would never do that. Because it was already a whole thing. It was already a whole thing when, Sony talked about how they're going to be recording PlayStation chats. And I did look into that, found an article. So it's not they're going to be recording every session, every party kind of thing. However, what they basically have, it's kind of like it's kind of like the body cameras where, like it always is recording. So it always has the last 30 seconds. So whenever the officer hits record, it captures the 30 seconds leading up so you have context. It's kind of like that where it records the last 5 minutes of private chats, and then it gives the ability for people to report, and when they report that rolling 5-minute clip, they're allowed to take 40 seconds out of that. Ideally, 20 seconds of it is the offending material, 10 seconds before and after is kind of like the context. So ideally, there should be kind of context to it. So it's not as bad as they're recording all the chats all the time for hours on end. But still, again, I'm a PlayStation user. I have said some things that I would prefer other people not to have heard that I said, especially in my younger years. And there's people I played with who would be in jail. They would straight up be in jail for saying stuff because they said some heinous stuff just to be edgy, just to make a joke, just to be over the top. Let's be honest, even though it's not as bad in terms of their policy as we originally thought, the fact that someone could take something out of context or just clip a joke that went way too far. Like, I get it. I don't support bullying or harassment or all that. But the ability to clip something, like, I've been at my workplace, I've seen people who, like, it was a joke. Like literally was not anything that was super inoffensive. It was just a gesture, and it was made in good faith and everyone had a good time. You find out, I go in a week later, turns out the person got the other person reported and written up, and it was like a huge thing. And it wasn't even that bad. They like splashed some water on them because they were at a pool. If you've ever been in a PlayStation chat, you've said way worse than equivalent of splashing water in a pool. Come on. And so it's the fact of there is a record that exists of these things. Like, that was just horrifying. And so now you need to give state ID to use voice chat in the game. That is crazy in itself too. It was already bad enough they were recording the trash talking. Now you're telling me I gotta give my ID to trash talk? And if I say something heinous and I get reported, that's gonna come back and haunt me in the real world potentially? Oh no. No. Oh no, 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 no. And for those of you who are like, that would never happen, what you do online doesn't come back to, affect you. I want to bring something up. A few years ago, a lot of countries and establishments started requiring you to have Bitcoin or like ID linked to your Bitcoin account. Like, if you go on Coinbase right now, you need an ID to set it up. It's not as anonymous as it used to be. Not just the, Bitcoin wallet numbers. It's linked to IDs and real bank accounts and things like that. And now it gives people the ability, gives governments, gives big corporations the ability to track these Bitcoin exchanges. The primary reason was tax, which I also disagree with, because come on, why you gotta tax Bitcoin? Especially, it's like, dude, if I'm gonna give 3 Bitcoin to someone for feet pics, I don't want you to tax me on that mess. Like, come on, really? You're gonna tax me? Nah. That's ridiculous in and of itself. If you remember a couple years ago, I think it was a couple years ago at this point, there was the trucker protest on Canada. Regardless of your stance on vaccination or the truckers or whatever, they did do that. The Canadian government actually did freeze real life people's bank accounts, their Bitcoin wallets, because they found that there was money being given to the truckers. And so they arrested people who were receiving the money and who were giving the money because they deemed them as dangerous to the government. Just trying to make my point of, the more real world gets tied to the online space, the more this will come back to haunt you. I mean, at this point, we're already starting to get to like Watchdogs land. And I'm not going to be a slippery slope and be like, oh, we're going to be Watchdogs, and soon people are going to be running around with eyeglasses that know your secrets. No. But I'm saying, like, if you look at how much online and real world has meshed, you think about like advertising, how intrusive advertising has been, and just like the advertising has become so personalized, and they are just forwarding you with all this targeted advertisement. Now no longer are you just being marketed to, your secrets are now also being recorded. There are records of your secrets, whether that's what kind of things you're into in the bedroom, what kind of politics you support, or even just talking trash in the game. There's now going to be government records attached to it. There's going to be a history, whether that's chat logs, transactions, or just a simple login. There's going to be records now. And I don't like that. I don't support things like racism or harassment or children looking at adult content or bullying or any of this. I don't tolerate any of this. I don't think that any of this is good for the world. But there are less intrusive ways. There are better ways. You have these things. They say, oh, it's for taxes. Oh, it's because of the children. Oh, it's to make sure that we have, the appropriate audience here. Maybe there is no alternative motive to any of this, to the records for the Bitcoin, for the voice chat, for the hub. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's no alternative motives right now, but it puts the foot in the door for now. Okay, now that you require this, it's easy. It's an easy stepping stone to be like, hey, we should have a record of this. Hey, we should start taking notes of it. And then you get to the trucker protest, and people are actually getting arrested for it. People are actually getting their bank accounts frozen because of something they did online. Because they supported something that they felt was important to it. And I said, regardless of how your stance is, the fact that a Bitcoin donation got people tracked down in real life and their assets frozen, that's kind of madness. And it's not any sort of policy that I support. I don't support this. There are better ways. There are less intrusive ways to get the necessary things to track it. Not to track it, to, get their goals, right? The age verification stuff, right? To keep kids off adult content. To get taxes. There is better ways of doing it that are less intrusive. Because I'm worried about what it could be. Let me know what you think. I'm pretty set in my opinion of, I think the freedom to be anonymous online should be kind of respected, but I know that not everyone agrees. So, what is your opinion? How do you feel? This has been Arctic. Good night.